Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, and welcome to Command Power, the show in which we discuss all things Magic the Gathering with a focus on Commander. And today we have a brand new deck for you, but before that, just a quick reminder to please click like and subscribe if you enjoy my videos. We're well on our way to 1 million subscribers and every single click counts. And today's deck is going to be centered around the card Mr. House, President, and CEO. For 1 red, 1 white, and 1 black, it's a legendary artifact creature human 0/4 with, whenever you roll a 4 or higher, create a 3/3 colorless robot artifact creature token. If you roll a 6 or higher, instead create that token and a treasure token. And 4, tap, roll a 6-sided die plus an additional 6-sided die for each mana from treasures spent to activate this ability. So this was one of the first cards spoiled from the Fallout set, and ever since I saw it I wanted to build it. It seems really cool and I love a random effect, so it's my kind of thing. I've seen a lot of people building this online around the treasures, seeing as you can get to roll extra dice if you use treasures to spend on the ability. However, that's not really the route I wanted to go. I wanted to go more towards a random dice rolling deck, so we're going to put almost every effect that rolls dice in these colors into this deck, at least the ones that are fairly good, in order to make as many robots and treasures as possible. Of course, we're still going to use his own abilities sometimes, but most of the time we don't really want to sink 4 mana into that because it is kind of expensive. Instead, we're just going to be trying to roll as many dice as we can through any other means, whilst also having a little bit of treasure synergy in there as well. So anyway, without further ado, let's get started, and we're starting off with Alibu Ancient Witness. We're going to be making a lot of robots, which are artifact tokens, so this is going to allow us to scry, which is nice, but more importantly, deal a bunch of damage to either an opponent or any of their creatures. Not only that, but giving all of our robots haste is really nice too. Captain Rex Nebula is a fun card that you can use in a bunch of different ways. We can animate some of our stuff, and most of the time it isn't going to blow up, but sometimes it is, which is hilarious. But not only that, it's letting us roll a die every turn, which is very nice. Chaos Chandler can give us some serious pseudo card advantage if we roll well enough, and it's really not that difficult to get a robot and a treasure attached to this ability. Chaos Dragon is amazing because we're going to have to roll a d20 at the start of combat on our turn, which is usually going to give us a robot on a treasure. Most of these d20 cards are very good in the deck. Clay Golem is yet another d20 card. This one comes with a little bit of expensive removal attached. Complaints Clerk is going to allow us to open an attraction. We want to have a couple of cards that do that just so we can have access to an extra die roll every turn. Apart from that though, this gives us a little reward every time we roll a 1, so we don't feel so bad. Crime Novelist is really solid because we're probably going to be sacrificing a bunch of treasures, and it even works very well with activating our commander's ability. Galena Wild Mage is always a good card, but it's particularly good when we are attaching a robot and or treasure to it, and getting to occasionally roll again is amazing. Earthcult Elemental is one of the weaker dice rolling cards, but it's still so much better when you attach a 3/3 and or treasure to it. Goldspan Dragon is going to make all of our treasures go that much further, but if you don't have it, don't worry, it's not essential to the deck. Hoarding Ogre works perfectly in this deck, seeing as we want to be rolling dice and making treasures. Iron Mastiff is really solid because even though we don't get to count all of the rolls for our commander, we do get to only keep the highest one, which means we're almost certainly going to be triggering him. Ishin Two Heavens as 1 is actually quite good in the deck because we've got about 11 fairly strong attack triggers in it, and also a lot of them involve rolling dice, so getting to roll an extra dice works very well with our commander. Lightfoot Rogue is one of those attack trigger creatures. It's incredibly average, but the fact that we get to roll a dice with it every turn is solid. Loth the Corrupt Sheriff should make us quite a few treasures throughout the game. Marionette Master is an excellent finisher in any deck that's running a treasure theme, and this one is pretty heavy on the treasures. Mastermind Plum can be really solid if there's artifacts in graveyards, but even without, it's still really solid card advantage based around treasures. Mondrak Glory Dominus is going to work so well with what our commander is doing by doubling all of the token output. Monoxa Midway Manager is a really sweet card that I've been wanting to put in a deck for quite some time. It's basically just going to be a 3/3 with First Strike, Menace, and Lifelink, which is just okay, but it's just so fun and cute. Nothing is a solid one that can sometimes high roll and draw you 7 cards, which is insane. Do be careful if you're quite low on life though, because you definitely don't want that. Professional Facebreaker can provide some really solid card advantage later in the game with all the treasures we're making, and early on it can just make some treasures on its own. Swarming Goblins can sometimes be really good by randomly making 3 tokens, particularly if we have any sort of token doubler out. Will-Bladed Frontiers is going to get really big in this deck, and it's also going to allow us to get better dice rolls, which is definitely something we want. Xeno Squirrel similarly allows us to get better dice rolls, even though it's normally only going to be able to do it a couple of times. And Kasson is great by giving us an extra treasure whenever we create a treasure. Moving on to Sorceries, we have Blood Money, which is a great board wipe that gives us a bunch of treasures. Clowning Around is a pretty cute card that can occasionally give us 3 tokens for 2 mana, and of course it lets us roll a die. Covetous Elegy is another board wipe that's very likely going to give us 6 treasures as well, which is great. Dance Macabre is a card that's much better than it generally looks. It plays out fairly nicely and can allow you to reanimate 2 cards. cards. Slight Malfunction is in the deck mostly because it lets us roll a dice, sometimes it can actually kill something, and the failsafe is to just kill an artifact. Thunderwave is a card that can be amazing if you consistently roll 20s, but even getting 10 to 19 can often be a one-sided board wipe. Contraband Livestock is removal that's going to allow us to roll a die. Critical Hit is kinda solid if you can just sneak some damage through with it, and since we're rolling so many d20s in this deck, you're going to often get to bring it back for more double strike. Lathal's Acrobatics can be a good way to protect our board from a board wipe, and it also lets us roll a dice. Revivify is more board wipe protection. It's very likely that you're going to roll over 15 in this deck with all of the dice manipulation that we have. And Will's Reversal is a card that's already fairly good in regular decks, but since we have so many ways to manipulate dice, this becomes very solid. Buckland's Everfull Purse is a pretty solid card, particularly if you can politic your way to keep getting it back. Component Pouch can be really solid in this deck once you stop putting a bunch of counters on it. Ebony Fly is a surprisingly good mana rock in the deck because it can just randomly grant stuff flying late in the game. Luck Bubblehead is kind of hilarious just as a way to roll a die once per turn, and occasionally it's going to give you an extra treasure if you roll a 6. Strength Testing Hammer is a card that I always feel is quite good, particularly if you're good at rolling high results. You can actually draw a few cards with this. Sword of Ours can make the equipped creature fairly big over time, but it crucially allows us a repeatable way to roll dice. The Deck of Many Things is yet another repeatable way to roll dice, although be careful activating this if you have a full hand. Treasure Chest is a one-off effect, but it's always kind of fun, and you can sometimes roll a 20 and go nuts. Unwinding Clock works well with our commander because it's an artifact, which means that we're going to be able to activate his ability multiple times per turn cycle. Vexing Puzzle Box can get a lot of counters very easily in this deck, at which point it becomes a tutor that puts the artifact straight onto the battlefield. And Wand of Wonder is a fun way to cast some spells from our opponent's decks. For enchantments, we have Anointed Procession, which is obviously amazing with all of the token making we're going to be doing. Barbarian Class is yet another way to manipulate dice rolls, which we definitely want. Maddening Hex is a pretty good card because it can never really be attached to you, so it's kind of going to go from one opponent to the other and you're going to roll a dice every time. Night Shift of the Living Dead is really solid because it's going to allow us to manipulate one die result per turn, which is nice, and you're also going to get quite a few zombies off of it. And Priority Boarding is some pseudo card advantage that we can use once per turn when we roll dice. For Planeswalkers, we have Comet Stellar Pup. This can be really fun, particularly if you're good at rolling 6s. And for lands, I wanted to mention Underdark Rift. This is a pretty solid removal spell on a land in this deck that's going to also fit with the theme by allowing us to roll a dice. So there you have it. That has been my Mr. House President and CEO deck tech. This is one of the less serious deck techs I've made in a while. It's definitely a deck that I'm going to be playing myself, and I hope you guys enjoy casual fun decks like this now and then. It can always be fun to lighten up a little bit and play something a little bit less serious. But I'd like to hear what you think. Are there any cards that I missed? Any cards you think I shouldn't have included? Let me know in the comment section below. I read all comments and respond to all of them too. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click like or subscribe. It really helps the channel. And until next time, take care.